The immediate aftermath of a nuclear detonation is a scene of unimaginable horror. Tens of millions of people in major cities like Delhi and Lahore would perish instantly. The heat from the blast would vaporize buildings and people, leaving behind only shadows. Millions more would suffer horrific injuries from the blast wave and collapsing structures. Hospitals, already overwhelmed by the sheer number of casualties, would be ill-equipped to handle the complex medical needs of radiation sickness and burns. The healthcare systems of both India and Pakistan would collapse under the strain. Doctors and nurses, themselves victims of the attack, would be unable to provide even basic care. The lucky ones would be those who died instantly. Survivors would face a slow and agonizing death from radiation poisoning. Those who lived would envy the dead. The world would watch in horror as the true scale of the human tragedy unfolded. Beyond the immediate human cost, a nuclear war between India and Pakistan would trigger an economic apocalypse. The economies of both countries, already fragile, would completely disintegrate. Trade would halt as ports and airports shut down. Financial markets would crash, wiping out savings and investments. The agricultural sector, the backbone of both economies, would be decimated. Radioactive fallout would contaminate crops and water sources, making them unsafe for consumption. Famine would stalk the land, adding to the death toll. The ripple effects of this economic earthquake would be felt far beyond South Asia. Neighboring countries like Bangladesh, Nepal, and Sri Lanka, heavily reliant on trade with India and Pakistan, would face severe economic turmoil. Global supply chains would be disrupted, leading to shortages and price hikes worldwide. The environmental consequences of a nuclear war would be just as devastating as the human and economic costs. The explosions would release massive amounts of radiation into the atmosphere, spreading a toxic cloud across the region and beyond. This radioactive fallout would contaminate water sources, soil and crops, poisoning the environment for generations to come. The long-term effects of radiation exposure, including cancer and birth defects, would continue to plague survivors and their descendants. Furthermore, a nuclear exchange could trigger a nuclear winter. The smoke and soot from burning cities would block out the sun, causing global temperatures to plummet. This could lead to crop failures, widespread famine, and ecological collapse on a global scale. Section 4, Exodus and Despair, the Refugee Crisis. In the aftermath of a nuclear war, millions of people would be displaced from their homes, fleeing the devastation and seeking safety. This mass exodus would create an unprecedented refugee crisis, overwhelming neighboring countries and international aid organizations. Refugee camps, hastily erected and ill-equipped, would become breeding grounds for disease. With limited access to clean water, sanitation and medical care, outbreaks of cholera, dysentery and other infectious diseases would be rampant. The sheer scale of the crisis would stretch international aid agencies to their breaking point. The world would struggle to cope with the sheer number of refugees, leading to shortages of food, water and medical supplies. Section 5. The World on Fire, Political and Security Nightmare. The political and security implications of a nuclear war between India and Pakistan would be catastrophic. The international community would condemn the attacks. But beyond words, there would be little they could do to reverse the damage. The potential for the conflict to escalate and draw in other regional powers, such as China, would be a grave concern. The use of nuclear weapons could shatter the global nuclear taboo, making it more likely that other countries might resort to such weapons in the future. This would lead to a more dangerous and unstable world, with the threat of nuclear war looming larger than ever before. Section 6. A New World Order, Geopolitical Shifts and Global Condemnation. The world would never be the same after a nuclear war between India and Pakistan. The global balance of power would shift as the world grappled with the consequences of the conflict. India and Pakistan, once rising powers, would be reduced to devastated nations struggling for survival. The global economy would be plunged into a deep recession as trade and investment dried up. The environmental damage would be felt worldwide, with long-term consequences for human health and the planet. The war would serve as a stark reminder of the folly of nuclear weapons and the urgent need for their elimination. The world would be left to pick up the pieces, haunted by the ghosts of millions dead and the knowledge that we came perilously close to destroying ourselves. Hit the like and subscribe button for more videos.